This is, I'm guessing, your fourth or fifth session for the day. So to check into this session, what we want you to do is take a selfie of you starting this session and post it on Instagram and tag Aro at Asia Pacific. So you guys have about 3 to 4 minutes to do this. Let's see who does this the fastest and how many of you are going to be doing this.
Oh, wow. So we got Ruhuna and Kathmandu. Who is this girl? Beautiful girl. Himanshi Singh Hao. I hope I read it correctly. Panam Minions. This name is cute. Susie the Ducky. MC Team Nepal. Wow. Man Tara Ashu. Hello. Welcome to the session.
Welcome to the session, guys.
And the Jalit S. Hello.
Hi, Surjita.
Hi.
Okay.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, good to go.
Yes, we can hear you.
Cool. Perfect. So how many of you know what retail stores are? I'm sure on a daily basis, a lot of you do go to retail stores or your supermarkets, right, to do your grocery shopping. What are the most important and essential things for a retail store to function? Firstly, it's merchandise planning, right? So every store needs to know what is the merchandise they require and how are they going to get it to the right stores. They need to know when the customers are going to be buying which merchandise. They need to know exactly what the customers want. And they need to also know, for example, if in store X, they have 100 chocolates and they run out of these 100 chocolates, then they need to know that they need to replace these 100 chocolates in store X. This is supply and demand planning. Now, what about manufacturing? Now, in manufacturing, it's very important for them to check the quality of the manufactured products and understand if there are any faulty pieces. Now, if there are faulty pieces, what are the percentage of these pieces that are faulty? And supply chain optimization. What is supply chain? It's basically how you get the end product to the customer from the supplier. How can they optimize this? And the next is the banking industry, where the most important thing is risk management, where data privacy and data security play a huge role. And also, how can they ensure that they are complying with the standards set by the government? Now, what are the things that are common in all three industries? All three industries had some form of data process that was crucial to their functioning. The process that was essential to them, without which they would not be able to function, is data management. In reality, it is not just these three industries. It is almost every industry that requires data management in some form to function smoothly. Welcome to your session on data management. I'm Shujita Ramanujam, your FASI for today. I'm currently MCVP OGE of ASIC in India. I was LCVP OGE of ASIC in Chennai, and I was recruited back in 2016. And ever since then, I have always worked in OGE. The challenges that I faced when I was LCVP OGE were a couple of them, during the very first 2 months of my term, were that the plans that I made were not going the way I planned. Strategies were not working out in the best way possible. Members were putting in effort, but it was still not reflecting in results. And I was really not sure of exactly what was even going wrong. And I didn't know what I had to do. Now, how did I overcome these challenges? I started analyzing what the top performing LCs were doing. Where were they sending their EPs? I started analyzing and tracking my own conversion ratios to understand which part of the customer flow was my bottleneck. For example, if my applied to accepted was low, then I understood that it was my applied to accepted that I needed to work on. I started meticulously tracking each and every lead through the customer flow funnel. This was the secret to my success. It was all about how I managed my data. So this session, you're going to understand what is data management, what can you do with it, what is the data that you can find in ISEC, what are the data sources, and how can you do it. How can you be data driven and how can you implement it in your daily routine? Because without data, you are just another person with an opinion. Something that I want you guys to do right now is take out your phones, go to www.menti.com, the link that you see on your screen right now, and we're going to play a small quiz. Once you guys all open the link, let me know. Done? Yeah? Can we go? All right. Okay. Just give me 1 minute. All right.
Hi, it's asking for a code.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is everyone done or do we need to wait for anyone else? Done? All right. Okay, so we're starting then. And you're going to win this quiz by answering fast. It's not just about the right answer, but it's also about the person who puts it the fastest. What is the percentage of sign up to applied in OGE for the term Feb 2019 to Jan 2020 globally? For ISEC International, what is the open to applied conversion ratio in OGE for the last LC term, which was in 2019? Okay, so only 46 of you got it right. The right conversion rate is 2.05. Okay. Now the next question is what was the applied to accepted conversion rate for IGV for the term Feb 2019 to Jan 2020? These are the options. Can you guys have one more second? All right. The correct answer is 64%. Right now we have Jean, Hong, and Beyonce killing it in this quiz. Okay. So you guys all got the data file, right? The October 2019 data file, which is basically the DAL files that every MCP of every entity gets at every month. So the October 2019 file that was sent to the MCP of every entity, and each and all entities together have 30,000 people. How many people actually clicked on the link to even open them? Out of the 30,000 membership, we had only 1,000 people click on that link. Now, those October 2019 data files that were sent to everyone, which entity opened the data file the most? Was it people from Brazil, Indonesia, India, or Turkey? Okay. It was actually Brazil. Now let's see who won the quiz. Good job. I'm not too sure how to pronounce this, but congratulations, you won this quiz. Okay, so now moving on to, let's go back to our session. Now, why was it important to understand these numbers? What did we get from these numbers? The conversion rates that most of you selected for the open to applied or the applied to accepted, all of you thought was actually higher than what it actually was. The number of the data files that we've even sent, the percentage of people actually clicking it is less than 10%, which means the number of people who are actually going through the data that is available in ISEC is really, really low. Which is why data management is really essential, because if you are managing your data in the right way possible, then those conversion ratios are something that are going to boost. All right. Why is data management essential? In our digital world currently, data pours into organizations from many sources, your phones, your videos, your text messages. And right now, we are creating and consuming data at unprecedented rates. We need some mechanism to collect, store, and review this data. This is where data management comes into play. Without data management, you are blind and deaf in the middle of a highway, because we're creating so much data, and if we're not doing anything with it, there is no use to that data, right? So how does data management help you? It helps you identify the root causes of failure. It helps you respond rather than react. What does that mean? A lot of people would spend a lot of their time firefighting problems that they face through their EB term. That is, when a problem comes, then I will think of a solution. But rather than working that way, how would it be if you could forecast the problems that you could face in the future and accordingly create strategies in advance? That is you responding rather than reacting. That helps you act sooner than your competition. It helps you make accurate decisions. Rather than running in the dark, you can make decisions that are backed by data. Data management helps you ensure that you are using up-to-date data. And most importantly, something that's really important in your entire EB term is that it helps you plan and create the right strategies accordingly. Because at the end of the day, the value of data is not based on its source, quality, or format. Its value depends on what you do with it. So what is data management? Data management is how you extract answers or insights. Basically, how do you get insights from raw data to meet what you require? The goal of data management is to help you make decisions that would benefit your organization and help you achieve your end goal. A robust data management strategy is becoming more important than ever, because right now the world is moving towards a data-centric approach. Right now, the commodity that almost everyone wishes to acquire is data. Now, we understood what is data management. How do we do data management? Now, how do we do data management? It is the data management cycle. Now, what is the data management cycle? It is a 5-step process. And the most important thing for you to remember about this data management cycle is that it is not a one-time process, but rather it is a cycle. That means you continuously do it. You can have data without information, but you can't have information without data. Now, the very first part of your data management cycle is the collect process. Now, what is the collect process? Now, the collect process is the process of gathering data related to our product performance. Basically, you're understanding where can you get this data from? How can you collect it? Where can you find this data? And how often should you collect this data? That is your collect process. Now, the second part of the data management cycle is the analyze process. Now, we've collected the data, but there is no use of just collecting it and storing it, right? We also need to analyze it. So the process of analyzing the data and reviewing the data that we collected is the second part, where using data files, Google Sheets, we analyze this data. We understand the bottlenecks. We understand our conversion rates. We find out what is our process time, what are our statistics, what are our numbers. And through this, we get our members as well to help us in this analysis process. Now, the third part of the data management cycle is the strategize. Here, you've analyzed data and you've got insights, right? You've understood your conversion rates, you've understood what are your numbers, your rankings. Now, you need to understand what strategies you need to create in order to boost all of this to help ensure that you are the best at what you are doing. So how can you do this? You set your goals, you have a clear action plan, you set your KPIs, and you create a timeline and accountability of the actions that need to be taken. Now, what is accountability? Who needs to do what? And how are you going to ensure that that happens? That is your strategizing part. Now, the fourth one is implement. Now, this is something that's really important because at the end of the day, actions do speak louder than words. We've created the strategies, but what use is a strategy if you cannot implement it and actually do it in the best way possible, right? So after creating your strategy, you implement it, you track your KPIs, your goals, you ensure you are following your timeline, you assign responsible for each part of the strategy. If you have a department and team leaders, you make one team leader in charge of one part of your strategy, or make their JD just implementing that strategy. You track all of this. You educate them and train them to help ensure that they are capable to implement this strategy. And then you track your members on percentage completion of these action steps. Now, the last and the final part of this is the repeat process. Now, you need to repeat this entire data collection process because now you've done this entire process once, but you need to review it. You need to understand what could have gone better, what could you improve the next time, and then you need to get a new set of data and then again repeat the entire process. This is the most important part of the data management cycle. Now, what are the different types of data that you can find in ISEC? Because you need to understand with what data can you actually do all of this analysis, right? So the very first data that you can find in ISEC is your conversion rates, right? Sign up to completes, apply to accepted to approved, and so on. How often should you be checking it? You need to be minimum checking it on a weekly basis. And what can you understand by checking these conversion rates? You can understand what are the bottlenecks. For example, if your applied to accepted is only 20%, then you understand that your apply to accepted is your bottleneck, because if your apply to accepted benchmark for your entity is actually 60% and yours is 20%, then you understand that that is a bottleneck and that is something that is dropping your operations. The next thing is process time. How fast are your processes? How fast are your members contacting your leads? You need to be checking this again on a weekly basis, because then you understand how fast you need to make your processes. Do you need to improve that? The next thing is standards, because at the end of the day, our MOS is completes, right? So you need to understand which standards are being delivered to your EPs and which are not being delivered. You need to check this on a monthly basis. And especially during the complete season or your finishes peak, you need to be checking it a lot more frequently. The next one is NPS, or Net Promoter Score. You need to again be checking it on a monthly basis. And what can you understand from Net Promoter Score? You can understand how satisfied your customers are, because in NPS, they basically can score you on a scale of 1 to 10, and through that they can tell you how satisfied they were with their entire experience of an exchange. The next thing is E2E data. E2E is entity to entity data. So that tells you, for example, if my LC is an LC called Disneyland and I have another LC called B, then how many exchanges did my LC do with LCB? That is your E2E data that you can check not just for your own LC, but also for another LC. For example, if you want to see what the top performing LC is doing, where are they sending their EPs or where are they getting their EPs from, then you do the E2E for that LC and check. And something that you need to check on a daily basis is the rankings and statistics of your product in your LC. On a daily basis, you need to open up expa and check where do you stand on a national and global ranking and in a regional ranking. And also you need to check this for your IR partners. Now, why is that important? Because this way you can understand, for example, if you've allocated 100 exchanges to IR partner X and this IR partner is dropping massively in exchanges, you need to understand that maybe this IR partner is not able to cope up with exchanges, and understand that you need to have a conversation with them and see what you need to do. Now, this was the 5-step process of the data management cycle, which was collect, analyze, strategize, implement, and repeat. So it's CASIR. It's really simple and it's very important that you guys remember it. Now, we learned what it is, but how do we actually implement it in real life? Well, let's dig deeper into that, shall we? So how many of you have actually heard of DAL files? Because I think this is something that a lot of you would have kept hearing over and over again, you know, throughout your LC term and throughout your EB term, right? So how many of you have actually heard of it? But do you guys actually know that, just give me a minute. Yeah. Do you guys actually know that these data files are more than just DAL files? So every month your MCP receives an email from ISEC International with a link for data files, all right? Now this link for data files has 17 data files and DAL files is just one of them. And these data files give you data on different parts of the customer flow. For example, it gives you signups data, applicants data, standards, NPS, process time. It gives you intensive data, which you can use. And these data files are mainly raw data. Raw data refers to data that has not been changed since acquisition. So what does raw data mean? It basically means I just have numbers, right? So it can give you EPIDs and tell you how many people you just give you 1,000 EPIDs of people who've signed up over the past 2 months. But this is just raw data and you need to analyze it and actually do something with it, right? Because the beauty of these data files lies in what we do with it and what insights we manage to extract from it through analysis, because otherwise it is just numbers and just details. Now, these are the 17 data files that you see. The ones on the top left side are the data files that are useful for OGX, IXP, people backgrounds, people languages, and so on. And on the right side, you see the data files that are useful for ICX. There are 3 data files that are useful for just ICX. And for the entire operations, you have these 6 data files that are useful. Now, if you go to this link called bit.ly/ISEC data files, you can see the name of all 17 data files here on the left side, as well as what data do these files have, what insights can it give, and who are these data files for? Is it for ICX, is it for OGX, or is it for the entire operations in itself? So this is something that you guys can go through later on as well. And in fact, I am just going to show you guys how exactly these data files links look like. Just give me a minute and I'm going to load it. Yeah, so these are the data files for March that my MCP sent us. And if you see here, there's a link that is www.aie.se/mar20 data. So similarly, if you want October 19 data, then you put /OCT19 data. And if you open it, you will have all of these 17 data files, and you need to access it using your .NET ID only, and only then will your data files open. Just give me a minute and I'm opening it up. Yep. So these are how these data files look, and you can download each and every one of them and accordingly analyze based on what you wish to analyze. Now, give me a minute.
It's 5 o'clock.
Yeah. All right. And you guys should definitely go and explore this bit.ly link later on, as well as go through other data files as well, because you should not just stick to DAL files, look at what more you can do with these data files as well. Now, you understood what data files are, but how can you analyze them, right? You have so much data in these DAL files, and using what can you analyze them? Well, you can analyze them through something called pivot tables. Now, a lot of you might already know what pivot tables are, but I'm going to explain it from scratch, and I'm going to break it down so that even if you understand it, as an overall subject, I'm going to help you understand it from the basics itself. So what are pivot tables? A pivot table is a summary of a large data set that usually includes the sum total, average, minimum, maximum, etc. So what does it actually mean? So for example, if you have thousands of thousands of numbers of sales are done in different regions. Like, for example, a product called Coca-Cola. Now, how many Coca-Colas were sold in the Asia Pacific region? How many were sold in the Americas region? How many in MEA, X, and so on, right? You just have data, and you have, Coca-Cola 1 sold here, Coca-Cola 2 sold here, and so on. Now, how can you find a summary of this entire data set? That is what you can do through a pivot table. So through this pivot table, you can understand how many Coca-Colas were sold in AP, how many were sold in MEA, and so on. So then with DAL files, what exactly can you do using pivot tables? You can find the total number of approvals done in, say, OGV of your LC, or by your MC, or even maybe by your IR partner. You can find out the E2E. For example, how much did the IGT of your LC do with the OGT of another LC? Now, this is how pivot tables look. Okay, so there are 4 very important parts of a pivot table. The first part is called this, which is the filters, right? And what is a filter? Basically, a filter display. So I'm going to again show you it in a pivot table as well, so you'll understand it better that time as well. So filters are basically, if you decide what you want to filter, it will show you a drop down list for it. Okay. So for example, if you have a data field called home LC, and you make home LC your filter, then it'll show you the list of all the home LCs that are there all over ASIC International, and you can pick just your home LC so that it shows data for just your LC. Now, what are columns and rows? It's just basically to help you decide in which way do you want this data to be displayed. So if you want the data to be displayed in columns, you drag the data field and put it in columns. If you want it displayed in rows, you put it under rows. Now, values calculates and counts this data. This is the part that summarizes your entire pivot table. So you can drag it and drop it in pivot table, and it can give you the sum, it can give you the count or the number, the total number there, the average, etc. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly how to do a pivot table right now. So the very first part of doing a pivot table is creating a pivot table, right? So how do you create a pivot table? So this is my DAL file, and this is actually December's DAL file, all right? So so the very basics of Excel is, now your columns are your vertical elements. Okay, so A is column 1, B is column 2, C is column 3, and 1 is called row 1, 2 is row 2, 3 is row 3, and so on. So what is this element called? This element is E5, because this element is there from column E and row number 5, right? So that is E5. What is this one? Which number is this? This would be I9. Cool. So now how you create a pivot table is you select this entire data field. How did I select it? I clicked on this leftmost corner one box and I selected the entire sheet. Now I go to insert, I go to pivot table, and I've selected the entire data sheet. Now, if I haven't selected that, I can click on this and select the range that I want specifically. And now I choose where to place the pivot table. I can choose to place it in a new worksheet or the existing worksheet. Now, what are worksheets? Now, for example, this entire DAL file that I have, this entire Excel sheet thing that I'm moving around is called a workbook, okay? So it's similar to your Google Chrome. For example, in Google Chrome, this is my Google Chrome window, right? But these are my tabs that I have in Google Chrome. So similarly, in Excel, this is called a workbook and these are called worksheets. So I've created a pivot table in a new worksheet, okay? And like you can see on the right side, you have filters, you have columns, you have rows, and you have values, okay? Now, how did we create the pivot table? So you select the range of data in the sheet you would like to analyze through the pivot table. We selected the entire sheet, and or we can select a specific range by the name of the column and the row, the elements that I explained in the very beginning. Then you go to insert, you click on pivot table. It will give you a pop-up and you can change the range you wish to analyze here in case you haven't selected the right range. And you can also pick whether you wish to open the pivot table in a new worksheet or the same worksheet. Now, the second part of creating a pivot table is selecting your values, right? Now you need to decide which data you want calculated through this pivot table, and you drag and drop that data field into the value field. So right now, what I want to do is I want to do the E2E analysis for my home LC, okay? So I am going to take EPID and I am going to drag it and drop it into values. Now, why did I drop EPID into values? Because for me to do E2E, I want to know how many EPs did LC Bangalore from India do with different entities, and with which entities did they do it in the month of February in 2019 for IGT. Now, for me to check that, I need to know how many EPs they sent. So the thing I need to count is EPIDs, and I need to count how many EPIDs are there. Where if there are 3 EPIDs, then that means I have sent 3 people on an exchange. If there are 5 EPIDs, that means I've sent 5 EPs, right? Now, if I right click on this count EPID, it will show me field settings, and I can change it to whichever setting I want. I can make it sum, I can make it count, average, max, min. You do it according to your need, but for E2E and for the very basic, you make it count, and that is the default settings as well. Cool. So, yep. Now, the third part is selecting your filters. You've selected what you want to calculate. Now you need to select your filters, right? So I want to do the E2E for IGT of Bangalore for Feb 2019. So my filters that I need to select are going to be host LC, because I am checking for an ICX product. Now, if I was checking OGX product, then I would put home LC under filter. Why? Because if you're running an ICX product, then you're the host LC, and if you're running an OGX product, you're a home LC, right? So now I go to this drop down here and I search for Bangalore and I click Bangalore. Now, the next thing is I need to put a filter of the product. Now, why do I need to put the filter of the product or filter of the host LC? Now, if I don't put these filters, it will show me the numbers of all the LCs all around the world and all the products. Now, that is too much data, and then that gives me no use of the pivot table at all, right? So now I go and click GT because it gives me IGT data, right? So this was my filters. Now, the next part is selecting your rows and columns. Pick what you want to be displayed in your rows and in your columns, right? So now I want to see with which home LCs did Bangalore do these exchanges with. So I go to home LC, I search for home LC here, I take home LC like this, you drag it and I drop it in rows. You can drop it in rows or you can drop it in columns. So if I drop it in columns, this is how it looks. And if I drop it in rows, this is how it looks. So IGT of Bangalore has done 176 IGT exchanges with all of these LCs, all right? Now this is over a long timeline, right? This is DAL files has data from the past year or past 2-3 years and until the very date this DAL file is for. But I want the data for just 1 month. So the very next part of doing this pivot table is selecting the timeline. So how do we go about doing that? What you need to do is go to pivot table, analyze here, go to insert timeline, and if you scroll down you see date EP approved. I'm doing E2E for the approvals. If you are doing it for finished, if you're doing it for something else, you do it according to that, okay? You pick that timeline. So since I'm checking approvals, I put date approved and I click OK. And give me a minute. Yeah, here you go. You get your timeline right here. Now I want this for just Feb 2019. So I move to the left, I go to Feb 2019, and here you go. You get your pivot table for Post LC Bangalore. How many IGT Bangalore did in Feb 2019. So they did 8 approvals in Feb 2019 with all of these LCs. And with this, I get my E2E analysis. So this is a really simple thing, and you can do so much more with pivot tables than just this, right? You can find out your conversion rates and you can do a lot of things. You guys should definitely try exploring it. So what I want you guys to do right now is I'm going to give you guys 15 minutes. I'm going to be putting a timer. You guys in the email that you got yesterday would have got a sheet having data files. Go there and download the DAL files and do the E2E for your LC for the time period Feb 2019 till July 2019. So that is your entire fish feed. Do the E2E analysis of your LC for any product of your choice, and you guys get 15 minutes. Once you guys finish doing it, let me know. Cool. And if you guys have any questions in the meanwhile, you can put it in the chat box and I will be answering them. Yes, DAL files is only from approved till completes. So the timeline option is right here. So you go, so there is home, there is insert, there is page layout formulas. So what you do is go to pivot table, analyze, and then you see insert timeline. Yep, I'm going to do it. So I'm going to again do it, and you guys can follow me while I'm doing it, in fact. So what you do is you go back to this sheet. So this is your DAL files, right? Can all of you open these DAL files? Yeah. If all of you have opened the DAL files, click yes, and we can do it step by step together. Has everyone opened the DAL files? Yep. Yeah. All right. Okay. So now you select this entire thing. You go to insert. You go to pivot table here. The link was already sent here. It is bit.ly/, sorry, it's there in your email. Yeah. Now you
The
go.
bit.ly Isaac data files doesn't actually have any links in the document itself. It's just a list.
No, not that link. You guys got it in your email. Wait, so what you can otherwise do is you go to this link. I'm sending you this link. Wait, I'm putting it on the chat box. Everyone, the AIA. 1 minute. Yeah, open this one. AEIS.ec/OCT19 data. Type this on your browser. So if you see, if I type this, it will take me to the data files, but you need to log in from your .NET and then you will get it. Cool. So now going back to this, so I select the entire thing and I choose that I want to create a pivot table in a new worksheet. Yeah, and I click OK, and then I go here. Now I need to decide what are the values that I need to click, that I need to count. So I want to count EP ID because I am checking the E2E, which I want to know how many EPs got approved. So I put count of EP ID. Yes. All right. Okay. I am waiting for you guys. I'm going to give everyone like 3-4 minutes to open up the data files and then I can start again.
Hey, could you repeat the step that you just did? I think I got confused and got lost in between.
Yes, just wait for about 2 to 3 minutes. I want everyone to open it. Then I can do it for everyone all together. Works?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you some questions till that time?
Yeah, you can just type it in the chat box. Yes, I am going to show the flow of creating the pivot table all over again. I am in fact going to do it as well. You can use DAL files itself to find the conversion rates. Use your .NET ID and it will open.
Excuse me, another question. Which document are we supposed to use?
1
like
minute.
open?
I will show you. So you go to the file called data files. So what you need to do is go to your login using your .NET ID. Otherwise, it's not going to show you. And you need to do this on Excel only. And you go to the second file called DAL, DAAL, and you download it. Cool. So it's that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start doing the entire thing all over again and show you guys how to go about doing it. And you guys can go through the output of this PPT as well, which you guys will be getting later, and you guys can also practice at that time as well. All right. Guys, wait, I want everyone to start and I'm going to start all over at the same time. Can you guys also mute yourselves, please? Done? Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to do it again, and you guys can actually follow it step by step this time. I'm again going to run through the steps as well, and at the very end of this session I'm going to be sharing the output of this session as well, along with a screen recording of how you can do E2E for DAL files. So at that time you will be again able to understand as well what you can do. So these are my DAL files. I opened it using Excel. Now I select the entire sheet. I go to insert. I go to pivot table and I click on OK. All right. Now this is how I create my pivot table. Are you all following? Yeah. Yes. All right. Perfect.
Yes.
Cool. Now, what we need to do is we want to do the E2E for our own LC. Okay. So I want to know how many approvals did my LC do for OGE with all the other LCs for the month March 2019. So what I do is I need to count how many EPs were approved. So how can I count how many EPs were approved? I have this thing called EPID. I take EPID and drag and drop under values. Cool? Everyone got that? Once you guys all do that, let me know. Yes? All right. Perfect. Cool. So if it disappears like this and you can't see those four things, all you do is go click on count EPID and those filters, columns, rows, values show up all over again. So now we got our values. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to put our filters. Okay. So you guys can actually text on the chat box what E2E do you guys want me to do? For which LC do you guys want me to do the E2E for? NUSD, okay. For which product? NUSD OGV, okay, all right. So I put home LC as a filter. Why am I putting home LC and not host LC? Because for I am running OGV, so I'm the home LC. If I was running IGV or an ICX product, I'd be a host LC, cool. So I put home LC and then I search for product. I take product and put it under filters. I drag and drop. Has everyone followed until now? Yes? Say yes if you guys have done it. All right, perfect, cool. So now you go to this drop down for home LC and you remove this select all. You see this tick mark under select all, you remove it. And then you'll see literally every LC possible. So in the search bar, you go search for NUSD. You can search for your own LC as well. I am searching for NUSD and then I close this. So my home LC is NUSD. Now I go to product all, I remove the tick under select all and I select GV. Now I am looking at the E2E for OGV of NUSD right now. Are you guys following? Have all of you done it still now? Yes? Done? All right. Perfect. Cool. Shall we go to the next part? Okay. So now the next part is I need to see with which LCs did NUSD do OGV approvals with. So who are these host LCs which hosted my EPs from NUSD, right? So I search for host LC and I take host LC and I drag and drop in rows. I can put it in rows or I can put it in columns. Whichever I feel looks better. I prefer it in rows because I can see it all in one page. So I put it under rows and these are all the host LCs that NUSD's OGV did approvals with. Everyone following until now? Yes. Can I go to the next step? Yeah. All right, perfect. So now the next step is for me to check the timeline. So what I need to do is I click again somewhere on my pivot table and then I get these options here that can you see pivot table analyze. I go to pivot table analyze. Did you guys find pivot table analyze? Yeah. Yes, all right. Now there you go to this thing called insert timeline. Now I'm making it a little bigger because I can't see my date approved. I go to date approved and I take it. So I am checking for date approved because I want to know how many OGV EPs were approved. So I'm clicking on date approved. Now, after clicking on date approved, I get this timeline. Can you guys all hear me? Yes? Okay, perfect. So now I want to check how many OGV approvals NUST did from Feb 2019 till July 31. So that is from Feb till July. And when I can just drag this timeline. So you see this end part, you drag it or you bring it back. And the same thing for the left side and that way. So wherever this blue thing is, it is checking for that timeline. So it's checking from Feb till July. So now this is basically my E2E for NUST's OGV. So they did 107 approvals in their fish peak, and they did the most approvals with Adana, and they did a lot of approvals with a lot of other LCs as well. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys 2 to 3 more minutes. You guys can check it again if anyone is still trying to work on it. Cool. All right. So now I'm going to go back to my PPT. So I'm just going to run you guys again for the entire process of creating a pivot table. There are 4 parts of a pivot table, which is filters, columns, rows, and values. In filters, you can filter out which data you actually want your pivot table to show. For example, if I want the E2E of only my LC, then I put the filter of LC and product, and I see only the data for these two. In columns and rows, I decide whether I want my data to be shown to me in rows or in columns. And in values, I decide what is the values that I want my pivot table to calculate and count. So because I want to see E2E, I put EPIDs because I want to count how many EPs were actually approved. Now the first part is creating the pivot table. I click on the entire sheet. I go to insert, I click on pivot table, and then I choose to create the pivot table in a new workbook. Now the next thing is select the values that I want created. Decide which values you want created. Here I want to check how many EPs were approved. So I want to count the number of EPIDs. So I drag and drop EPIDs into the values field. Select your filters. I want to check how many were done for OGE of LCY. So I put home LC as a filter and OGE and product as a filter, and I pick OGE as the product and home LC I pick Y because that's the product and LC that I want to check for. The next thing is select your rows and columns. I select what are the things I want displayed as rows and what are the things I want displayed as columns. So since I'm checking for OGE approvals of my LC, I will put post LC in either rows or in columns. And then I go to pivot table analyze and I click on insert timeline and accordingly select the timeline that I want to check my data for. And this is how your final data should look like. If you're doing E2E for an OGX thing, then it looks like the left one. And if you're doing for the ICX one, it looks like the one on your right side. Cool. So this is basically how pivot tables work and how you can do E2E. Now there's so many more things that you can do with pivot tables, and I saw a few of you asking how can you check conversion rates. Now for conversion rates, you need to get the number of approvals done by each of these LCs, and then you need to put a formula to get these conversion rates. It's a little more complicated, so you can PM me and I can give you more details on how you can do that. Now this is a little complicated, using data files, using pivot tables, right? Is there any other way to get these insights? Well, you can use XPA. So right now, XPA has a lot of analytical features that you can use to get all of this data. So the very first analytics that you can check on XPA is performance analytics. So performance analytics will basically show you how many opens, how many applicants, how many acceptances, approvals, realizations, finishes, and completes that are there for any MC, any LC, any region, any entity all over the world. Okay, so I'm going to play this video for you guys to see how you can do it. So you go to analytics, go to performance, you go to entity here, you click on the entity you want to check for. I was checking for Indonesia. I go to the time period, I click this time period that I want to check for. It was for November 2019. I go to product, I'm checking for IGE. And if you see it, I can see the performance analytics. I can see the numbers done by IGE of Indonesia of all the LCs for November 2019. Now, if I remove the product selection of IGE and put OGE, and I select a very specific status, which is accepted by host, then I see just the accepted by host for OGE of Indonesia. Now I can either select if I want to see just one status or if I want to see all of the statuses. So performance analytics is something that's really cool, and that's something that you guys should definitely check out as well. And the next analytics is funnel analytics. So again, you go to the analytics, go to the funnel analytics, go to product, you decide which product you're checking for. We were checking for OGV. Type whichever entity you want to look for, Sri Lanka, or you could even put an LC. It doesn't just have to be an entity or an MC, right? And you decide what range you want to check for. Change the date, and you give it a few seconds, and then it's going to load. And if you see in funnel analytics, someone was asking me, how can you check conversion rates, right? You can check it on XPA as well directly, or you can do it on data files itself. So in funnel analytics, it shows you the entire funnel, how many signups were there, how many applied, how many accepted, how many approved, and so on, and what were the conversion rates for all of it. The next thing is E2E analytics. So you again go to this little pie chart where you have all your analytics, go to E2E, products, you can pick which product, go to status, you pick whichever status you want to see, which is the home entity you want to check, and which is the host entity, and the time period. And then it's going to give you the E2E. You can check, you can change the year, you can change the dates, anything. You can pretty much do everything. Okay, so the difference between applications and applicants is basically that, for example, I'm going to show you E2E analytics again, but I'm just going to explain this. So applicant is basically, so me, Shujita, I am an applicant, okay? So I am one applicant, but if I apply to 5 opportunities, then I have 5 applications and I am one applicant, which is why you can have 3 applicants, but you could have possibly 100 applications, which basically means your applicants are applying to a lot of projects and not just one project. Cool. So I'm going to show you guys how to do E2E again. Go to analytics, go to E2E. You can click on which product. I'm just going to go through this a little faster, and you can see it shows you the E2E just like that. Now, if you click on any of the numbers which are there under any of these LCs, for example, Peru, we was 29, Argentina was 25. And if you just click on any of them, you click on 29, which was done with Peru, then you'll see all the EPs that were approved, that were approved with Peru. And you can see their NPS score, and you can see literally everything. So you guys should definitely check E2E out. And the next one is E2E standards analytics. So you again go to your pie chart, you go to E2E standards, This is E2E. Wait, I'm going to where E2E standards are. Yeah, so you see E2E standards here. Sorry, I'm so sorry for shifting slides. Okay, now you can check, go to E2E standards. You can click on the entity, the product, the time period, and which entity or LC it was realized with these EPs. And it will show you all of these standards, and it'll show you how many of these standards were completed, how many were not completed, how many of these standards were actually answered, and how many were not answered. So one reason why finish to complete is low for a lot of entities is because EPs are not even filling up your complete survey, right? So when you look at this, you understand how many EPs have actually filled up these surveys and how many have not. So these are 4 analytics that you guys can use on expa. So you guys should definitely check this out. Now, how can you create data-driven strategies? Because until now, you understood where are the sources you can get data from and how can you analyze this data. So how can you create the strategies for data right now? So using the insights you've already analyzed through the data management process to create your strategies. Now, to create goals and targets, use data to project what your goals need to be. According to these projections, create strategies and your focus projects. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how you guys can create projections. Now, what does projections basically mean? Projections means if I've done 10 approvals this year, how many approvals can I do next year, right? How do I decide that? Based on what? So the very first thing is you decide your projections, okay? So it's a 4-step process on how you can project your goals or your targets. The very first one is you pick the values you are going to be projecting. It can be based on your conversion ratios or your absolute numbers or both. So that means, let me just show you guys a quick sample of a projection and you guys will understand it a lot better. Okay. Yeah. Now, these are the projections. Now, if you can see, the projections that I have picked here is one is increase in opens. So what happens if I increase the number of opens I get in a year by 20%? What happens if I increase the number of opens I get by 25%? And what happens if I increase my accepted to approved to 85%? And the third one is what happens if I increase the number of opens, increase my applied to accepted conversion rate, as well as increase the accepted to approved conversion rate as well. So these are the 3 projections that I decided. Now, the second step is input your values, okay? Now you need to input the numbers and conversion rates that you got from DAL or data files. So now, for example, say in January, LCX got 100 opens. They got 60 applicants, out of which 40 were accepted, 30 were approved, 15 were realized, 10 were finished, and 8 were complete. So this gives me my conversion rates as well. And this is a sheet I actually created. I will be sharing the link to the sheet with you guys. You guys can just input numbers here and check how you can project as well for your LC. And I'm going to tell you guys how this sheet works. So once I input these numbers, this data that you get from expa or from DAL files for January 2019, for example, I get my conversion rates here. Now, what happens if I increase the number of opens that I got in January 2019 by 20%? So I had got 100 opens in January 2019. So if I increase it by 20%, that means I will get 120 opens. And I keep all the other conversion rates the same. So my applied to accepted, if it stays the same at 67%, 75% accepted to approved, 50% approved to realized, and so on, Then I get 36 approvals, and last year I got 30 approvals. So what does that mean? So it gives me a 20% growth. You can see the growth right here in cell T22. Now, in my second projection, if I increase the number of opens by 25% and increase my accepted to approved to 85%, then I get 125 opens, and my overall approvals jumps to 43 approvals, which means I've had a 42% growth. And the third projection is what happens if I increase my opens by 31%, applied to accepted to 75%, accepted to approved to 80%. Then I get 47 approvals with a growth rate of 57%. So this were the three projections that I could do. And when I input my values, it shows me how many approvals and how much growth I could get by just changing these conversion rates and the absolute numbers. Cool. Now, the second one is picking your projection. Now, we've seen what are the possible outcomes that are there, but which outcome actually seems most feasible? Sorry. Yeah. So for me right now, I think the second projection seems the most feasible because I am increasing my accepted to approved by 10%, and I'm just increasing my number of opens to 125 opens, and it gives me a growth percentage of 42%. This seems extremely feasible for me, which is why this is the projection I would go with. And then I decide what are my focus projects. Now, I have picked the one where I increase the percentage of opens by 20%. So that means from 100 opens, I'm getting 125 opens right now. And from conversion rate of accepted to approved of 75%, I'm increasing it to 85%. So what that means is right now, my focus projects need to be how can I increase my opens by 20% from 100 opens to 125 opens, and how can I increase my conversion rate from 75% of accepted to approved to 85% accepted to approved. So these two need to be my projects that I need to focus on, and I need to create strategies on how can I create more opens and how can I ensure that all my accepted are getting approved. So similar to this, you create your focus projects and you create your strategies based on these data. This is how you create data-driven strategies and make plans that are driven by your data and not just random numbers that you just pick. Because when you do it based on projections, based on conversion rates, you know what is feasible and how you need to achieve your end goal as well. Because the most important thing is you have a goal, but you need to know how can you achieve that goal. Only when you know that are you actually going to achieve your goal. Now, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to get on your phones and again, go to menti.com. We're going to have a small quiz, which is basically just a refresher on everything we've gone through right now in this presentation. Go to menti.com and this is your code 763518. The projections sheet I will be sharing with you guys as well. You will get it in the output of today's sessions. Yep, I'm waiting for a couple more seconds for more people to join. We have 110 people. Let's get a few more people joining. Okay, 140. Come on, let's hit at least 160. Where are the rest of you? Join, join, join away. one. Okay. All right. Just waiting. Okay. Go to www.menti.com and use this code 7653, sorry, 3518. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start this quiz right now. And again, you get more points for answering it the fastest. So let's see how many of you actually understood what happened in the session. How many steps are there in the data management cycle? 4, 5, 3, 6. These are your options. How many steps are there in the data management cycle? Wow, 99 of you got the right answer. There are actually 5 steps in the data management cycle. Okay. What are the steps in the data management cycle? So we know there are 5 steps. So which are they? Are they CASR, which is collect, analyze, strategize, repeat? CASIR, collect, analyze, strategize, implement, repeat? CAIR, collect, analyze, implement, repeat? CASIR, collect, analyze, strategize, induct, repeat. Smart people, it is CASIR, collect, analyze, strategize, implement, repeat. Now, the next one is, why is data management important? It helps you make data-driven decisions and create strategies accordingly. It helps you identify the bottlenecks. It helps you review your current processes, or all of the above. One more second, let's see. Okay. It's actually all of the above. It helps you make data-driven decisions and create strategies accordingly, but it also helps you identify the bottlenecks, because only when you identify the bottlenecks of what is going wrong can you create better decisions and create strategies as well, right? And it also helps you review your processes. When you review your processes, you identify your bottlenecks. So it's all kind of interrelated. And the next one is, what do we use the funnel analytics for? To understand the conversion rate and process time of EPs in the customer flow funnel, to tell us which standards have been delivered. It shows us E2E, or it tells us which standards have not been delivered. Okay, yes. 138 if you got it right. It's to understand the conversion rate, process time, and EPs in the customer flow funnel itself. Okay, how many data files are there? This is an easy one. Yeah, how many of you got it right? 17 is the right answer. There are actually 17 data files. Okay, now the next one. What is data management? It helps you extract insights from raw data to meet your information needs. That is the basics of data management. It also does help you analyze your data, store and collect data as well, but it's all of it together. It's not just one of it. Okay. Let's see. No, it is not a cycle. 1% say yes, 1% say you do it once and then chill. Okay. All right. So I'm going to show the correct answer now. The correct answer is no, it is a cycle. It's not a one-time process. And the most important question, which region is the West? Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay. And 10 more seconds and I'm going to change to the final scoreboard and let's see who actually won this quiz. Okay. And there we go. Who won it? Congratulations, Luke. You're the winner of this quiz. So now I am going to go back to our session. And the most important part of data management, guys, is practice. Keep practicing because practice is the key to success. I know I took you guys through a lot of data and put you guys through through a lot of information at you guys, which is why I had a small quiz as well to help you guys refresh your memories. So to just refresh it all, I just have the most important slides here. There are 17 data files. There are data files that are important for OGX, which is IXP, people backgrounds, people languages, people signups, people sign up for 60 days, people skills. ICX are opportunities, backgrounds, POP opportunities. Operations is, by operations, I mean it's useful for OGX as well as ICX, which is applications, DAL, NPS, process time approved, and standards. And if you go to this link, which is bit.ly/ISEC data files, you will get the details of each data file, of what does each data file stand for, what data is there, and what can you infer from each data file. So you can use whichever data file you want to get whichever inference you are looking for. And the next one is pivot tables. So there are 5 steps to create a pivot table. The very first step is create it. Select your values, which is basically this one on the bottom right side, the value area that calculates and counts data. You drag and drop whichever data field you want to count. For example, if you're doing E2E, then you want to count how many EPs were approved, and you drag EP ID and drop it under values. The next thing is, I'm sorry, it's actually a little mixed. For some reason, it says strategize, implement, repeat. It's actually, let me just go back to the previous slide. I'm really sorry. It's a little messed up for some reason. Yes, so it's create a pivot table. You select your values, then you select your filters, whether it's home LC, host LC, which product. Select what you want displayed in rows, select what you want displayed as columns, and then you select your timeline. And going down, 1 minute. Right. And these are the 4 regions of a pivot table: filters, columns, rows, and values. And the next one is how to create data-driven strategies through projections. 1, you decide which values you want to project. Through my sheet, I wanted to project what could happen if I increase the number of opens and change different conversion rates. Second is input the values into this projections sheet. Third is pick the projection which gives you the result that you want and which seems the most viable to implement. And the fourth one is, what are your focus projects for this through these projections? For example, if I project that I want to increase opens and apply to accepted, then I need projects related to that, right? So you guys can create a copy of the projections sheet. The link to that sheet is, let me just type it here and you guys can see it. It is bit.ly/apc projections. Yep, it's the right sheet. And you make a copy of it, and then you can input data from your own LC. And the next one is, yeah, just give me a minute. So this is the quiz that I want you guys to submit. You can find it at bit.ly/apc quiz. There are just a few questions. I will show you, sorry. Okay. Okay, so this is the quiz. You enter your name, your LC, which entity you are from, do the DAL or data file analysis, upload only the analysis. So if you're someone who's already done DAL and analyzed DAL files quite a bit, then you can analyze something else, maybe the standards, maybe people's backgrounds, maybe opportunities, whichever interests you. Upload a screenshot of your LC's performance analytics for the month of February 2020. Upload a screenshot of your LC's E2E analytics, funnel analytics. So these three analytics you can do using XPA. And the last one is also, yeah. I'm just adding this question right now because I forgot to do it. Upload your LC's projections. Cool. And I'm making a file upload. Yep. And you can upload, make a copy of the projection sheet and just upload it here after you complete it. So what do the first three people who submit this quiz get? Well, the first three, well, firstly, you need to submit it by 10 a.m. Indian time tomorrow. And the first three to submit this will be featured on the RO Insta page, and will also get brownie points in being the best delegate for virtual APC. So ensure you are sending it in on time and try to be the first three who send it in itself. And if you guys have any more questions with regards to data management, you can always PM me and I will ensure that you guys get the output as well to this session. So to just go through a quick recap, the three most important points of this session itself is that data management is how you gain insights from raw data. Data management helps you make data-driven decisions. The data management cycle is a 5-step process. It is not a one-time thing, it is a cycle. And it stands for CASIR, which is collect, analyze, strategize, implement, repeat. And the third and most important thing is that the value of data is not based on its source, quality, or format. Its value depends on what you do with it. Here are a few tips and tricks. Okay, yeah. And last, thank you for joining in this session. And just remember that the value of data is not based on its source. It depends on what you do with it. And to leave you guys with the last few tips and tricks, most importantly, practice is the key with data. There are a lot of things that you can continuously keep doing, you know, with pivot tables or Google Sheets to analyze. There are different formulas. There are hundreds and thousands, and right now is the best time for you guys to learn about it, and the easiest way to learn about it is just Google it. That is how I learned it as well throughout my LC term and MC term. Based on what I wanted to analyze, I would just Google it, saying, you know, how do I find the formula for creating some XYZ, and that's how I started mastering the art of data management itself. So keep practicing, keep updating and refreshing your data, because you need to continuously use new data. Because if you keep analyzing just the data files for October 2019, you're not really going to be improving your strategies, because you're just analyzing old data, right? Refresh your data, update it, and keep analyzing new data. And don't forget, it is a cycle, and don't let the data overwhelm you. See how you can master it, and you're only going to master it through practicing. Thank you all for joining in, and I'm just going to leave the link for the quiz on the screen so that you guys can go to this and upload your answers. Whoever is the first three, we will feature you on the RO page. Thank you so much for joining in, guys. You guys can take a screenshot of this so that you know what you need to be submitting. Yeah. Okay. And to check out, 1 minute. Yep. So just check out, fill the feedback form, share your learnings of the session and the checkout question on the FP group post of this session. Post a checkout on the Instagram and tag RO Asia Pacific. And don't forget to apply for APC awards. It's really important. You guys should definitely try to apply for the award. It's open for all of you. And see you in the next session. Hope you guys had a great session.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys. And don't forget to fill up the feedback form, please. You will get access to these slides in the output of the session. It will be sent in an email to you guys. And I will also upload a link to the slide and all the resources that were used in this session on the quiz, which is bit.ly/APC quiz, where APC and Q is capital, and you can find all the links there. Bye, guys. Hope you guys had a great day, and hope you guys liked the sessions today. I will give you guys access to the session projection. I will change it as well. Thank you for letting me know.
Bye.
Narinig mo? Narinig mo na ba?